Before I start, any questions? I can't see, so if anybody has their hands up.
Yeah, hey.
Nice. Okay.
Starting with like influence, I guess that'd be a good thing to
Mhm.
start off with.
Okay.
Who are some of your stronger influences and why? Like, what's some good examples of how you?
Okay. I started out listening to Kiss. Okay. Kiss was one of my favorite, and it's funny because I still think that a lot of those solos by Ace Frehley are good because they're kind of basic and bluesy. But after Kiss, it was Van Halen. Just early. I think as soon as Dave left, I kind of lost interest. But reading interviews with Van Halen, he talked a lot about Eric Clapton. You know, I knew his songs from the radio, but I never heard how he could influence Van Halen. So I went back and checked out some of the older Clapton stuff, like Cream, and got heavily into that. And that's something I still use as a main influence. In fact, I discovered a lot of players that way, just reading interviews and whoever your favorite players say their influences are, go check them out. Another favorite of mine was Michael Schenker, who cited Jeff Beck as an influence. And of course, everybody cites Hendrix as an influence. Since then I've gone through phases. There's always been like a favorite of the moment. And right now, one of my favorites, the guy that actually used to teach here, Jimmy Herring from Aquarium Rescue. And he'll probably be a favorite for a while. And a lot of players have been my favorites, and then I still like them, but they just don't last permanent. But for some reason, Hendrix, Beck, and Clapton are all permanent influences. So what I've done, and I think it shows in my playing, it may not be obvious if you're not familiar with a lot of their music, but I've learned a lot of licks and solos from those guys. That's what I like to do is imitate. That's my own thing. Okay, for example, here's my imitation of Eric Clapton. Okay. White Room, Sunshine of Your Love. A lot of those slow bands and vibrato come from learning his stuff. Okay, Hendrix, would be the same thing. just had a lot of those over-the-top bends, you know, where you're not just bending a whole step, but you're bending even higher, letting the strings ring. That's kind of funny because at one time that was considered bad technique, you know, to get noises like that. I like that. And Jeff Beck is another one. Like there's certain classic licks that I think of as being Jeff Beck. So that's kind of how I started out with those guys. I still listen to those guys. But, you know, since then there's been a lot of other players I listen to. And what I try not to do is not get too caught up sounding just like one player. That's very easy to do. You know, I remember, you know, when Yngwie Malmsteen came out, at the time, you know, nobody was playing like that. And, you know, everybody wanted to play like him. And so I got kind of caught up in that. You know, I learned my arpeggio. All that stuff. And that's cool, but, you know, I started doing too much of that. You know, that was like 10 years ago. And I went to a local guitar teacher who was really popular in the area, but nobody else knew who he was outside California. His name's Joe Satriani. Of course, everybody knows who he is now. And he was actually the first guy that said, yeah, it's really good to learn those licks, but that's his thing. And so, don't, you know, learn from it, but use it to develop your own thing. Don't try to sound like him. Because right now, everybody's trying to sound like him. And if you sound like him, you'll sound like everybody else. Okay, also another one is Van Halen. Now, this whole thing right here, it's kind of outdated. And for some reason, everybody thinks of that lick when they think of Van Halen. But I mean, there's actually so much more to Van Halen. Like I think the first few albums, all the ones with Dave, for some reason, they have this edge to them, and there's a lot of really good blues licks, and it's, you know, it's a lot like the Clapton stuff. Only, you know, it's like Clapton gone haywire. And you know, one of my favorite solos is "You Really Got Me." That one's cool because it's got all those, you know, it's got the bends like Hendrix, only it's like way over the top, you know. That's where that comes from. So it all comes from different places. Okay, another big influence after, I guess like right after I got into Testament, I started getting a little tired of, you know, all the rock licks. I just kind of felt like I was in a rut. And a friend of mine turned me on to Al Di Meola. And his stuff helped out my picking a lot. Like, you know, a lot of fast picking. So I have a DAT version of an Al Di Meola song that I'll play right now. Thank you. So when I'm learning a song like that, you can't help but benefit from a player's technique. Like just learning that lick, which is the main riff of the song. You can't help but improve your picking. At the same time, what I didn't do there was memorize every solo in the song. You don't really need to, because once you play those riffs, I mean, it's pretty easy to come up with your own stuff. And what I try to do is, like, if I play an Al Di Meola song, I just try not to play it like Al Di Meola. Like for a couple times there, I was trying to think, okay, what would Jeff Beck do? That'll work. Or some of the Clapton bands. It'll all work. See, music's all interchangeable. Are there any questions? Put my hand like this, I can see people's hands. Yeah.
What percentage of the state you're playing is improvisation?
Like
for instance, in the song.
Not 100. I'd say about 60. More of it, well, maybe 70. More of it's improvised than not. If you looked at other videos of me playing this at guitar clinics, you'd find some of the same licks, but you wouldn't find them in all the same places. And hopefully, you'd always find new stuff too. Do you have a question or anything?
Yeah, what kind of stuff did Joe Satriani show you?
Mostly, Joe Satriani showed me modes. And at the time he showed them to me, it was kind of over my head. Because I've always played by ear. And I've always learned by figuring things out for myself. And then, once I had all this music theory in front of me, it didn't make that much sense. After I took lessons from him, I had time to digest it on my own. So eventually, I got to a point where I could do it. But it took a long time. It took me, being really bored with what I was doing, which is basically playing in E minor all the time. Because a lot of heavy tunes are written in E minor. Most Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Testament, whatever. All those bands, most of the tunes are in E minor. So I felt like I was stuck in E minor. And I just took out my notebook that Joe had written for me, and had all these modes. And then on the next Testament album after that, which I think was Practice What You Preach, I think you could hear a difference, especially like in the title track. The solo in the title track was basically this modal exercise that I used to do. And I'd take one mode, like Phrygian mode. Take a rhythm that would work for Phrygian. Basically what that does is, you start in the key of A major. And I know I said I didn't want to get too much into music theory and put everybody to sleep, so I'll try to be brief. But key of A major. Okay, that gives you A Ionian is the first mode. Anybody know what the second mode is? Okay, what Dorian? Good. What's the third mode? Okay, that was the fourth one. Not E Lydian. Good. D Lydian. So You're forgiven. So what happens is you take these chords. Basically, each of those modes has a chord that goes along with it. Okay, like A Ionian, it's got A major. B Dorian, it's got a B minor chord, where you can do a B minor 7. C sharp minor for C sharp Phrygian. E major for D Lydian. E major for E Lydian or E dominant 7. F sharp minor for F sharp Aeolian, and G sharp half diminished for G sharp low green. So you get this outline of the whole key. I'm sure you've heard a lot of songs that kind of just follow that pattern. Now, of course, when you have power chords, you can't really play the thirds, which are the melody notes. You end up with this. But it still works. Just because the major and minor notes aren't played doesn't mean they're not applied. You can apply them with your solo. So basically, with practice we preach, what I did was just took all these power chords, mixed them up. What happens is you end up with, the main riff being C sharp Phrygian. And the first mode that it switches to is F sharp. Any other questions about that? No. Okay, I'm gonna play another tune right now, and I'm not sure which one this is. that was a tune by another current favorite guitarist guy named Pat Martino. Does everybody know who he is? No?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good. You should. Yeah, he's one of my favorites. He does a lot of the chromatic jazz type stuff, which I actually didn't start getting into until really just a few years ago. Now, a lot of that has to do with timing and rhythm. When we started out playing rock and roll music, we used to hear stuff always on the downbeat. Kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, doom, doom. Now with a lot of these jazz licks, they start on the upbeat, or like sometimes you divide it into 16th notes. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, you get 1 E, 1 E. This is actually a triplet feel, so it's like. And it's kind of hard to think that way at first, but once you do, it's easier to play licks that don't always fall on the same parts of the rhythm. Let's take a different tempo. Let's take a tempo like let's see. It's like the thing I was doing before, the Herbie Hancock tune. Okay, now the tempo here is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I recommend practicing with a metronome. Like I take my metronome everywhere I go. I've got one here. These little matrix deals. Now, here's the click. Okay, so we're most used to hearing that at 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. And then you can divide it into 8th notes. You get 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Now, what's tricky is starting phrases in between the notes, in between the clicks. Okay, so if I start on one of the numbers, dum dum bum bum bum, it's real straight. Now, if I start on the 8th notes, it picks up a little bit. Like bum bum dun dun, 1 and dun 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 dun. Now, if you start on 16th notes, it gets even weirder. Dun 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 dun. Okay, like here, I'll do a phrase on 16th. Okay, so like a jazz lick would be like 1 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2. So right there, I'm starting on the 1 E and 2 E and And it makes it more interesting than always just starting on the 1. Another thing you can do to get out of the rut of like always playing on the downbeat is to think of the metronome as 2 and 4 instead of 1 and 3. Now this is really hard to do at first. Okay, we're used to hearing it as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you make the clicks 2 and 4 and you count 1 and 3 to yourself, it gives it more of a rhythmic feel. It's hard to do. So the first thing you have to do is count along and say to yourself 2, 4, 2, 4. So then you end up with 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and that has more of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So if you're going to practice jazz or funk, it's good to put the metronome on 2 and 4. And if I was going to play that bass line, gotta get it on 2 and 4 again. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 4, 1, 2, 3. It's easier to play with a solid groove with metronome on 2 and 4. Are there any other questions so far? Okay, I'm going to play another song.